Greetings and salutations. You all said you want it, so we're doing a Lightning Thief reread vlog. Let's see if I do a better reading vlog this time than I did for Tower of Nero. I was trying to wait until the weekend to start rereading and to film this, but I finished Tower of Nero yesterday and I just really missed the series and the characters so much that I'm just gonna start now. I'm gonna start rereading now and we're gonna just go for it. We're gonna go for it. I haven't decided if I want to reread with my paperback or with my illustrated edition yet, because the last 2 times I've reread The Lightning Thief with my illustrated, so I think I'm just gonna read my paperback. I think, because I haven't gotten that guy out in a little while. I haven't given him some love, so I think I'm just gonna reread with my paperback. Reading the words book 1 kind of hits different. Spoiler warning for like the entire Percy Jackson and the Olympian series, because this is a reread. I know what will happen and I know when foreshadowing is and I talk about it. I apologize, but yeah, if you have only read The Lightning Thief and don't want the rest of the series spoiled for you, maybe don't watch this yet. This is absolutely not even kind of relevant, but I just love how like battered and like loved my copy of The Lightning Thief is. Usually I'm really like uptight about keeping books in perfect condition. I don't even like opening them because I'm scared of the spine like showing any damage, but I've had this copy since I was 10. I remember buying it and like it's just kind of really beat up, and it makes it look as loved as it is and as well read as it is. I've reread this book a lot of times over the years. I used to take this to to school with me in my backpack and out everywhere I went. When I was first reading this series, I was this, really shy, awkward little kid, and I used to take the books with me everywhere because just being able to hold them and know that at any moment I could escape into that world brought me comfort. So they've been like everywhere with me, in this one especially, and I like that it looks a bit, it looks used, but I like that about it. Okay, I just finished chapter 1 and my heart is so happy to be back in this world and back at the beginning of the world, like in Percy's POV, learning about everything for the first time. And like it's been almost 9 years, I think, since I first read The Lightning Thief, but I can still remember the feeling of reading it for the first time. And I still have that feeling like evoke in me when I reread. There's just something so magical and dynamic about the way Rick writes, and especially the way he writes when we're in Percy's POV. I think it's just I'm so happy to be back in this world, and I am still obviously deeply upset about the fact that I don't have anything new in the Camp Half-Blood Chronicles to consume, but I think I needed to come back and be in Percy's mind again a little bit. I just love the first chapter. Is just still one of my favorite opening chapters of anything ever, and I can remember it as a kid. I can remember like after reading just the first chapter, finding my mum in another room and being like, oh my god, and I can like remember telling her specifically, and then like the water came out of the fountain and like knocked her over, and everyone was like whispering about it, and it was so cool. And then at the end, like I can remember relaying the entire chapter to her and being so excited. I also just think it's a little fucked up that they're just like, you imagine Mrs. Dodds, Percy. Are you feeling okay? That's in your head. There was never a Mrs. Dodds. Like, could they not have come up with any other excuse? Like, I know that they're trying to protect him because if they admit that there are monsters, then he's more likely to be found. But that seems a bit like gaslighting. Like, Chiron's full-on gaslighting Percy. Also, oh my god, like, just like, how many specific phrases and quotes are just directly put into the musical makes me very happy. I feel like this whole reading vlog will be maybe like, and this specific line was in the musical, but it's The Lightning Thief, so you should expect that from me. Which also, Chiron reminds me of a teacher that I had at my college this year. He taught pop culture studies and ancient history. He would just like literally bring in like a bunch of like swords and axes and shit into class all the time. He just did that, and he was so passionate about Greek and Roman mythology, and the first time I met him, he reminded me of Chiron. He still reminds me of Chiron, and now like reading The Lightning Thief, I'm like, oh yeah, that just reminds me of this specific professor that I had, which is really cool. But like, where did Mrs. Kerr come from? Because she's not like a trick of the mist. Where did she come from? I've never thought about this before, but I'm suddenly very confused. What's the explanation there? What does she think happened? Could you imagine though if like they straight up just kept letting Percy believe that, you know, he imagined Mrs. Dodds and he wasn't actually chased by the Minotaur, he didn't end up at camp? What would have happened? They go on and on about how if he's ignorant then they can just figure out the summer solstice without him, but they probably couldn't have. So Luke and Ares and Cronus would have succeeded and there would have been a war, right? They're so fucking lucky for that Minotaur, that's all I'm saying. The Minotaur, the true hero of the series. This wasn't the place for you. It was only a matter of time before I got kicked out. You think I'm trouble just like everyone else. I can't explain it, but Percy just blurting out looking for kindly ones has the same energy as don't I get a kiss for good luck? It's kind of tradition, right? Why can't Percy say Half-Blood Hill out loud? Is it because of the term half-blood? If he says the word half-blood, then he'll be attracted more. That makes sense. But I was like, wouldn't they just find like a strawberry place? You know? 3 old ladies knitting the biggest pair of socks they'd ever seen. I mean, those socks were the size of sweaters, but they were clearly socks. Why do I find that so funny? The fact that they snipped the string and it's fucking for Luke. Literally just, oh, this is such a good series. I really feel like we don't talk enough about like Sally's family situation. Her parents died in a plane crash when she was 5, and then she dropped out of college to take care of her uncle. He didn't even really care about her when he got cancer, and then she was left with essentially nothing. And she is still like the kindest, strongest woman, and Sally is just one of the best characters in the series. There's a reason why she's like my favorite character, honestly. Gabe was a world-class jerk. I just really love how many exact book quotes are in the musical. Friendly reminder that they don't eat blue food because it's Percy's favorite color. They eat blue food as a act of rebellion against Sally's abusive husband. The last thing I remember is collapsing on a wooden porch, looking up at a ceiling fan circling above me, moths flying around a yellow light, and the stern faces of a familiar-looking bearded man and a pretty girl, her blonde hair curled like a princess's. They both looked down at me, and the girl said, "He's the one. He must be." It is time. So Percy's officially at camp. I forgot how quickly I can read these. Like, I'm like 60 pages into this and I feel like I've been reading for like 10 minutes. I find these books so dynamic and so fun no matter how many times I read them. I think I've read The Lightning Thief around, this is probably my 12th or 13th time reading it, and I'm still having fun. I'm still enjoying it. That's such a talent. That's such a talent. So I forget how graphic and like violent and kind of scary these books can be. I always just kind of like PG-ify them in my brain because they're children's stories, but like they're quite intense sometimes, honestly. Look who's come to join me on my reading expeditions. It is Percy Catson himself. When did we stop really caring about like naming monsters and the whole names have powers thing? Because it feels very, very present here. Yeah, even by like book 2 or 3, they're very, very much like, this is what this monster is, let's call it by its name. And then by Heroes of Olympus, they're just fucking talking to the gods themselves right off the bat. They're like, yo, Hades. So when do we, it'll be interesting to see when we really stop caring. This description of Annabeth goes out to everyone who says I look like canon Annabeth, and to which I say I don't, and then they argue with me. This is why. She was probably my age, maybe a couple of inches taller and a whole lot more athletic looking. With her deep tan and her curly blonde hair, she was almost exactly what I thought a stereotypical California girl should look like. I am short, I am not athletic, nor athletic looking, and I am the palest person you will ever meet. When people tell me that I look how they picture Annabeth, it makes me cry tears of joy. That was literally like my childhood dream and means everything to me, to be able to embody even anything similar to how people picture this character. That means so much to me, is such a gift. But I'm not exactly canon. She glanced at the Minotaur horn in my hands, then back at me. I imagined she was going to say, "You killed a Minotaur," or "Wow, you're so awesome," or something like that. Instead, she said, "You draw when you sleep." That still gives me like freaking butterflies, I don't care. Hello, it's a new day. I had to make a coffee before I started this and before I started reading, because who am I if I don't have a coffee? Not to brag, but I've gotten so good at making coffee. Like, so good. Like, not all coffee, but my lattes, god tier. Like, my vanilla lattes, caramel lattes, my... So I read a couple of chapters last night without vlogging it, I guess, because I didn't read them. I was listening to them before I went to sleep. Because I actually went out last night to the drive-in to see Jurassic Park. It was a good time. It's one of my favorite films ever. But yeah, got home as I was taking off my makeup, and before I went to sleep, I didn't even listen to the actual audiobook. I listened to Chris McCarroll reading them. I'm now up to chapter 9. I'm offered a quest to talk about the previous chapters. One, I just love Annabeth Chase. I love how she's actually trying to help Percy, like, figure out his dad, and she sympathizes with him. When we first meet Annabeth, she does seem cold and standoffish, but you already have these moments intercut of her being, like, genuinely kind and compassionate, because that's how we know her character actually is, and I love seeing that. Luke is already manipulative. I forget how manipulative he is right off the bat, how resentful he is, and how he just ever so slightly in the language he uses just reinforces this idea to Percy that he is alone and he is like a loner, and that the only people who are really there for him are Luke and the other kids, and the gods don't care and no one else cares about you. And he does just use this subtle language because Luke is obviously, you know, 19 years old and knows what the fuck he's doing. He's old enough to not really, he's still a kid, but like he's not really. He's a lot older than 12 and he knows what he's doing, and he knows how to manipulate these kids into being on his side, or to hopefully be on his side in this war. Also, I still can't believe that Annabeth doesn't figure out that he's the son of Poseidon. Literally, toilets explode and she's just like, interesting. And then when he gets claimed, she's like, I thought you'd be the son of Zeus. Go. Speaking of Athena though, someone on Twitter said this and I would just like to share this. I'm an Athena kid. Fellow Athena kids, can we please start calling cabin 6 the Owl House? Please. Anyway, let's read chapter 9. I'm offered a quest. I forgot that the tinfoil covered zigzag you'd see in a play line was in this. I forgot that that was a book quote that they then changed to off-Broadway play or touring play. No, off-Broadway musical, touring musical, Broadway musical. That's what it was. That's cool that it was there. I understand why they were like, yep, let's pick this one out and put that in. That makes sense, but it's also one of my favourite moments in the musical. Just, and every time it like evolves into whatever form the show is, it makes me really happy. I'm just a kid and life is a nightmare. Sorry, Percy just said the words, but I'm just a kid. Why do I do this? Would you really keep a Hydra head in there? Like, with all of the, like, you know, what exactly do you call them? Like, just symbols of succeeding in war and in battle. That's not the right way to describe what I'm trying to say, but you know, like what the Minotaur horn is. Why would you keep a Hydra head? Like, I assume that was probably left as like a spoil of war, but cutting off a Hydra's head is like the wrong thing to do, so keeping a single Hydra head? Would you really have that like on display with the others? Okay, but Percy's right. Like, when he says, what friend will betray me? I don't have that many. Yeah, so do the math in your head, bro. You've got 3 friends. You've got 3 friends? Grover and Annabeth are on your quest with you. Have they betrayed you? No. Who does this... The fact that he gets back to camp and he's still like, wonder what that means. You've got 1 friend left. You've got 1 other friend who hasn't betrayed you. Do the mental maths, my love. I honestly wouldn't have. I didn't pick it up the first time I read this book when I was 10, which is a closer age to Percy's age than I am now, and I know Luke is the Lightning Thief now, so I'm being hypocritical, but like, still, I feel like if you're really that worried about it, you'd be kind of trying to figure it out at every moment, and you could. My point is, you could, if you really thought it through. Is it Grover? No. Is it Annabeth? No. You've got 1 other friend. You've got 1 other friend, Percy. I mean, couldn't the Master Bolt be in some place like Maine? Maine's very nice this time of year. Only if you like clowns. If you're gonna save the world, I'm the best person and keep you from messing up. 5 long years stuck at camp. If you do say so yourself, I suppose you have a plan, wise girl. It's the first seaweed brain and wise girl. I feel like $100 mortal money and 20 golden drachmas isn't much for 3 kids for 10 days. Like, this is covering transportation, supposedly, and food, and toiletries that may be needed. Like, that isn't much money to get them across the world in 10 days while still being fed. I hate Annabeth having a crush on Luke so much. so much. And that's not on Annabeth, because she's 12 and she's looked up to Luke since she was a kid. It's only like normal for her to kind of have a bit of a 12-year-old crush on Luke. That's completely fine. It's like a lot of kids have crushes on their babysitters. I think it's kind of a similar thing of seeing someone you admire when you're a kid and they're attractive, so you're going to just have a crush on them because you're a fucking 12-year-old. But like, it makes me so uncomfortable because like right now I'm like, yeah, that's the situation. She is 12, he is 19, but he does actually grow feelings for her too, and it just I am uncomfortable. I am uncomfortable. Luke literally grooms her. And to everyone who tells me Percy isn't bi, he didn't have a crush on Luke. You're reading into this too much. But here he was giving me a magic gift. It made me blush almost as much as Annabeth. Do the math, love. Kyron saying, it will just pass through mortals like an illusion. They simply are not important enough for the blade to kill. He really just went, you're built different, Percy. No backup plan, no food, no phone, no adult supervision. I apologize for my singing in this video. I didn't expect to just be singing at you, but I am, so you just have to put up with my singing voice. I just want to like read this page because I love it so much. I love it so much. So far, so good. I told Annabeth 10 miles and not a single monster. She gave me an irritated look. It's bad luck to talk that way, seaweed brain. Remind me again, why do you hate me so much? I don't hate you. Could have fooled me. She folded her cap of invisibility. Look, we're just not supposed to get along, okay? Our parents are rivals. Why? She sighed. How many reasons do you want? One time my mom caught Poseidon with his girlfriend in Athena's temple, which is hugely disrespectful. Another time Athena and Poseidon competed to be the patron god for the city of Athens. Your dad created some stupid saltwater spring for his gift. My mom created the olive tree. The people saw that her gift was better, so they named the city after her. They must really like olives. Oh, forget it. Now if she'd invented pizza, that I could understand. I said forget it! In the front seat, Argus smiled. He didn't say anything, but one blue eye in the back of his neck winked at me. The true CEO of Perseverance, the true pioneer of this ship, the true head of this ship, it's Argus. People say it's Chiron. It's not. It's Argus. He been new. I also just wanted to read that because part of that is transformed into what is my favorite scene in the musical, and I just wanted to give a shout out to a moment that I love in the book that becomes my favorite scene in the musical. In the musical, it happens after Medusa's place, and it leads into Annabeth kind of really leveling with him and opening up to him, and Percy kind of understanding where she's coming from more, and then it leads into my grand plan. And yeah, just wanted to give a little shout out to that moment. All I cared about was my mum. Hades has taken her unfairly, and Hades is going to give her back. Hades took my mum, I'm taking her back. Annabeth's initial response, to Percy being like, everything blew up, oh no, was, well, maybe if you hadn't decided to jump into the fight, what did you want me to do, let you get killed? You didn't need to protect me, Percy, it would have been fine. And, being angry and then pulling it back and being like, look, I appreciate you coming back for us, okay? That was really brave. Has the exact same energy as Catra in season 5 of She-Ra being like, sorry I got angry. It's something that I'm working on. Am I wrong? I always in my head think Annabeth saying the real world is where the monsters are is this her being deep and philosophical about the universe and how the world sucks, but it's actually her talking about literal monsters, which kind of makes it better. But I was saying this in my Tower of Nero reading vlog a little bit. That quote means a lot to me because the real world is where the monsters are. Realistically, the real world is where the monsters are. The monsters take different forms for everyone, but the real world is where the monsters are, and it's always been nice to have characters that kind of understand that and who I feel like I can relate to, even though they're battling literal monsters, who I can relate to in my own battles with my monsters. And that's why I literally want to get a tattoo of just the phrase "Bring on the Monsters," which is my favorite song from Lightning Youth Musical. You're smart, you're brave, you're scary good with that knife. How could your mom not be proud of you? That's what I want to know. The only gift my mom... I feel like we talk a lot about Annabeth being the smart one, as if she never has slip-ups, as if she never has her moments, but specifically here, like with Medusa, Grover's like, I don't like this. Annabeth is just so clouded by hunger, the same as Percy, that she's like, Grover, it's fine. Grover literally says, don't knock, I smell monsters. And Annabeth just goes, your nose is clogged up from the Furies. Imagine needing a cover story and being like, we're orphans. And someone is like, surely not. And rather than just being like, yeah, we're orphans, we're on the run or whatever, you say, we got separated from our caravan, our circus caravan. The ringmaster told us to meet him at the gas station if we got lost. Come up with a normal cover story, Percy. See, now Annabeth clues on. Like, once she starts hearing the story and she realizes that, oh, we're in a place with all these statues, you're wearing a headdress, so we, like, can't see your face, and you had two sisters who helped you in this business, and you had a boyfriend who a bad woman got jealous of, and, you know, she caused a terrible accident. Then she starts to realize, but even when Medusa calls her initially by her own name before Annabeth has introduced herself, she's not like really thinking it through, because she has human tendencies, she slips up sometimes, and she just wants some fucking food, and that's all she's thinking of. And I think that it's important that we remember that Annabeth isn't the smartest person in every situation. It just bothers me when people always act as if Annabeth is never wrong, or Percy's always the one making the idiotic moves. No, sometimes Annabeth does too. Remember when fucking Medusa in the movie was Uma Thurman? How did that movie get Uma Thurman to be in that? Uma Thurman is too fucking good for a Percy Jackson movie. Well, no. Uma Thurman was too good for the Percy Jackson movie she was in, but then again, Logan Lerman was also too good for that movie. Everyone was too good for that movie. You're insufferable. Well, you're impossible. How am I impossible? What? I'm even making In the Same Boat references now. Also, I would just like to talk about the fact that Medusa isn't a villain. Medusa was 100% a victim. Grover's just like, Percy, don't send the head to the gods. They'll think you're impertinent. And Percy was like, I am impertinent. Which is just like, the gods will think we're impertinent. Oh, we are impertinent. There's gonna be a fight. So one thing I love in the musical is that Annabeth opening up in My Grand Plan is like right before Percy sends the head to Medusa, and essentially right after My Grand Plan, Percy just goes, I know one way to get our parents to notice us. Help me box up this head. And he writes, courtesy of Perseus Jackson and Annabeth Chase. There's a few changes in the musical that I actually really love, honestly, and that's one of them. But also, imagine being 12 years old and just being like, I'm gonna fucking send this Medusa head to Mount Olympus, just so they notice me. What a fucking badass. I love this kid so much. Oh, yeah, I guess he'd be an environmentalist. Only a human wouldn't be. This! I still don't entirely know why the musical changed the pink poodle to a squirrel, but I like that they still kept in this moment. They were still like, we're still going to have a tiny furry creature help them out. We're gonna change it from a pink poodle to a squirrel for some reason. I am not saying sorry to a squirrel. He's very sorry. Tell the squirrel you're sorry, Percy. I always forget that Percy is like literally a fugitive. Like genuinely a fugitive. Like, could you imagine? Let's talk about Percy in high school. It's known that Percy looks, you know, intimidating. He looks a bit scary. That said, that's a canon thing. He's also like fiercely attractive, which is also intimidating. But imagine like you have this kid come to your school and he's like a skater kid and he looks really intimidating, and then like you just find out that he was a fugitive when he was 12. Annabeth opening up about her family situation to Percy, and Percy trying to like make her feel better by being like, well, you know, my mum married Gabe to mask the scent of me being a demigod. Like, maybe your dad was doing that when he got married. But Annabeth just being like, no, like, he just doesn't like me. He views my birth as an inconvenience. One, I relate so strongly to Annabeth's like family situation, and it meant a lot to me as a kid to have this character who had this, you know, this environment and who ran away because she knew that she deserved better. Because when I was a kid, I used to really want to run away from home. Like, that was a dream of mine, don't ask. It's just seeing her open up to Percy about that, and Percy trying to, like, sympathize, and you really do start to see this bond between the two of them grow, and then them talking about, well, you know, the chariot. Athena and Poseidon work together to complete the chariot. I'm gonna cry. I love this book a lot. I love these characters a lot. I love this ship a lot. I love this shit being rooted in this friendship that you can see building here. I love it so much. For I am the mother of monsters, the terrible echidna. Isn't that some kind of anteater? I hate it when people say that. I hate Australia. The only mention Australia gets in this series, lads. Echidna hates us. Australian demigod rights. I think Percy is like my favourite book protagonist of all time because the narration here. I'd love to tell you I had some deep revelation on my way down, that I came to terms with my own mortality, laughed in the face of death, etc. The truth? My only thought was, ah! I just love that. I love how relatable as a character he is. He's genuinely funny and dynamic to read from the perspective of, and I think a problem I often have with like protagonists, especially YA protagonists, is that I just find them boring. They feel almost too perfect or too much of an archetype. They often don't feel like they have enough personality to really be engaging or relatable to me, or just that they are almost a bit too heroic sometimes. And I like that Percy is just like, I've got no fucking idea what I'm doing and I'm panicking the entire time, and he's funny, and I think that that's why he stands out to me so much as a protagonist. Also, when he jumps into the like river, he's like, I'm not wet. I can feel like the water around me, but I'm not wet. I am dry. So has Percy never been swimming before? And God buys us cheeseburgers. We're about to read it. This is one of my favorite chapters. This, we capture a flag and I become Supreme Lord of the Bathroom, I think, are my favorite chapters. I imagine Luke when he's like, it has to be Hades. He's the only one who could have taken it. I imagine him just kind of like subtly sweating. And Luke asking if he's wearing the flying shoes, like trying to make sure that he does use them. I'm Luke Castellan, catch my fucking hands, and I don't mean to hold, I mean to fight, let's fight. Hello, I stopped reading halfway through that chapter because I got really hungry. I'm back, we're finishing the chapter, my hair is now in a ponytail. Also, look at my Miss Americana tumbler. You can't really see it. I'm drinking apple juice out of it. Because, why not? That was so awkward, Jesus Christ, Ashlee. Aries has strength. That's all he has. Even strength has to bow down to wisdom sometimes. The way that was my bio on all my social media as a kid, because that resonated with me. I wonder why. So, look, if I was them and a god was like, you know, here, I'll buy you some food, go do this errand for me. I don't have time for it. Look, I'd probably do it because it's a god and I would be too scared to be like, no, I don't want to do your dirty work because they're a god. But I'd be very on guard. And I know that they kind of are, but you know, they kind of just walk right into the pool. And I feel like they probably should have expected it to be booby-trapped. Annabeth just stealing the clothes because like they're fresh clothes and they're right here in the souvenir shop. Why not grab a few souvenirs? But like Percy's just like, Mama, I'm in love with a criminal. I really hope in the Disney Plus show we do see the Tunnel Ride of Love, and we see that segment, because we haven't seen that in any adaptation so far. When I first watched the Lightning Thief movie for the first time, that was the scene I was the most excited to see, and it obviously wasn't present. And I understand absolutely why it's not in the musical, and they actually did want to put it in the musical when they first found out that the musical was being adapted into a 2-hour show for Off-Broadway. Rob did initially want to include it, but then decided that would have had to be like, it would have had to take up some time, and he wanted to spend that time you know, working on character moments and character development instead, and that's why the entirety of Act 1 is all pre-quest, because Rob decided that it mattered more to him and it benefited the show to focus more on developing these characters and understanding where they're coming from than the actual quest itself. Because we haven't seen it anywhere so far, I really want to see it in the Disney Plus show, and obviously they can do it if they want to. Annabeth talking about how Arachne's children have been taking revenge on Athena's children ever since Arachne was a thing. That like really fueled my idea of being an Athena kid as a kid. I don't know if I've gone through my whole situation with my Greek godly parent that I take way too seriously, but basically I thought I was an Athena kid for years, and I thought I was an Apollo kid for a hot minute, and now I'm back on Athena kid. When I read that, me and my severe arachnophobia, who also lives in Australia where there are a lot of spiders around, so spiders do find me often, I was like, oh my god, I'm an Athena kid because I have this severe arachnophobia and they always, like, spiders always find me. So like, yes, I'm an Athena kid. Sweetie, you just live in Australia and have arachnophobia. I thought if I told you, you wouldn't want me on this quest. If you knew what a failure I really am. Ask Annabeth. She knows. There's a tree on the hill. My stepmom was the same as ever. She didn't want her kids put in danger by living with a freak. Monsters attacked, we argued. Monsters are attacked, we argued. I didn't even make it through winter break. I called Kyron and came right back to Camp Half-Blood. The thing with this is, Annabeth, she's not scared of staying with her family because she's afraid that she'll attract monsters. She's scared of staying with her family because she feels like they think she's a monster. So if the gods fight, I said, will things line up the way they did with the Trojan War? Will it be Athena versus Poseidon? She put her head against the backpack Ares had given us and closed her eyes. I don't know what my mum will do. I just know I'll fight next to you. Why? Because you're my friend, Seaweed Brain. Any more stupid questions? That is my favourite Persebeth quote. I love it so much. Annabeth is like genuinely the first real friend that Percy's ever had, because you can look at Grover, but realistically, even Grover was told to be his friend and he wasn't faking it. But you know, if you've never had friends your entire life really, and then you find out that the only proper friend you've ever had, you know, was told to keep an eye on you, that's going to mess with your head a little bit. Annabeth is the first person ever to just decide to be his friend, and that's a huge deal. And the fact that she's disobeying her mum, whose approval means everything to her and drives her every move, just because she's decided she wants to be his friend. This is a huge moment, and people don't talk about the significance of this anywhere near enough. This is one of my favourite quotes in this book. I placed a state of sanctuary on them, meaning they'll reach the wild safely, he said. They'll find water, food, shade, whatever they need until they find a safe place to live. Why can't he place a blessing like that on us? I asked. It only works on wild animals, so it would only affect Percy. I love them. I love my tiny baby children. I always think the Lotus Hotel like chapter is way longer than it is. Like they're only actually in the hotel for a couple of pages, and for some reason in my mind, like it's just so much longer. I suppose because I know the amount of time that they're actually there, but I always just think like it's a much bigger part of the book than it actually is. Also, unpopular opinion, kind of think the Lotus scene in the film is better. They keep like more than once calling him Hercules in this book, but Hercules wasn't the Greek myth. Okay, but like Gabe was on Barbara Walters talking about Percy. People would know that this happened to him, and I know that like his name was completely written off and it said that, you know, he was abducted by Ares and whatever at the end, but just people would know about this. And in like Sea of Monsters, he's back to being bullied by other kids. I feel like kids would be intimidated by the fact that, oh my god, this kid was a fugitive. Like, this is a, you know, well-known news story. So I genuinely think Krusty is like the monster we see in this book specifically that I would be like to killed by at least. I would rather something just like eats me or whatever. I don't want to be like stretched, and because I'm sure I would be like stretched out, and the thought of that, no. I feel like because I'm so familiar with these books and I know them so well, I don't like appreciate a lot of the little things and the little details and just things Rick puts in that I find so charming and that made me fall so in love with the series in the first place. For example, the way that like the waiting room to the Underworld is described. The way that it's described is so like familiar. It's a familiar waiting room in my head, and adapting these places and people from Greek mythology and really modernizing them to the point where they feel really familiar to us in a funny way. It's such a talent. These books are so good. Also, one of my favorite quotes ever. How did you die then? I nudged Grover. Oh, he said, drowned in the bathtub. All three of you? Karen asked. We nodded. Big bathtub. The way that Percy responds to, are you dyslexic, with, no, I'm dead, as if that cancels it out. Love of my life. Annabeth grabbed hold of my hand. Under normal circumstances, this would have embarrassed me, but I understood how she felt. She wanted reassurance that somebody else was alive on this boat. I love this so much, not because it's like a Persebeth moment, it's the first time they hold hands, but it's because, again, the reason I love the ship so much is it's rooted in friendship, and this is just Annabeth platonically seeking comfort from a friend, one of her first real friends too. I love that Annabeth plays ball with Cerberus, but it makes me so sad how sad Cerberus is when Annabeth is leaving. Like, he just wants someone to play with him. I hate it so much. And Annabeth has officially cried in this book. I'm going to, because I say this all the time, Annabeth cries all the fucking time. I'm gonna like keep a count, because I'm pretty sure she cries in every book in like the main Camp Half-Blood Chronicles besides Son of Neptune and Tower of Nero, and that's because we don't see enough of her to justify her crying. We see like 3 seconds of her in both of those. I'm going to keep a tally, make sure that I'm right. She's officially cried in The Lightning Thief. Let's keep it going. The dead aren't scary. They're just sad. That lives in my mind rent-free. Any mentions or discussions of Tartarus kind of like make me a wee bit emotional. Make me a little bit emotional there. Grover is, you know, being pulled into Tartarus right now, and Annabeth is explaining what it is, and I'm like, ooh, you'll find out. You'll get pretty personal with Tartarus in a couple years there. Also, like, seriously? You're betrayed by a friend. Who gave you the fucking shoes that dragged you into Tartarus? I'm just saying. I love the description of Hades in this book. Like, he truly is described as like a terrifying figure. Like, I don't think it's possible to read the description you have and not picture someone genuinely horrifying and who would just immediately instill fear in you. Them all arguing about who stays behind. Their bond, their friendship is already so strong here after spending a couple of weeks on a quest together. I love just the elements of friendship in these books, like more so than anything else. I just love how willing both, like how Grover and Annabeth are both just like, no, shut up, goat boy, like I'm staying, like no, Annabeth, I'm staying. I really do love it. Look, I know that Ares was just completely motivated by the idea of another war, and by, you know, he's the god of war. He wants the huge war that would have come with this, but surely he knows that Cronus is going to have ulterior motives that are going to hurt all the gods, including Ares at the end. Surely Ares is smart enough to understand that. I understand that he was manipulated by Cronus and that Ares is easily manipulated by just being like, here's a thing you want. But surely he's smart enough to know not to trust the Titan that they chopped up into little pieces and threw into Tartarus. I completely forgot about the ball thing. I always do. But Percy just fucking, no stress, doesn't even break a sweat, cuts off his tusk, gives him a wave. You know, sometimes I remember how powerful the big 3 kids are, and this is one of those instances. Annabeth giving him her necklace to wear so that Poseidon and Athena are fighting together. And Grover giving him a tip can. So this may be the end, but I ain't sad, 'cause you're the 2 best friends this screw up ever had. First of all, I love that everyone on the beach, rather than seeing Ares and Percy sword fighting, saw them freaking like in a gunfight. Percy just, people like mortals think that Percy at the age of 12 held his own in a gunfight against this big biker guy who kidnapped him. That's fucking impressive. 10 out of 10. Percy is a freaking badass. Second of all, I am so excited in the Disney Plus adaptation, because this will be an accurate one, to see a 12-year-old fucking going mad with like a grown-ass adult playing Ares and winning. That's going to be visually very entertaining to me. Also, you cannot convince me that the other gods in Olympus didn't bully the shit out of Ares for being beat in battle by a fucking 12-year-old. I know he's like Poseidon's kid, but he's still a demigod and he's 12. Like, they all gave Ares so much shit for that, as they should. I just want to read this because this is just the exact reason why I love Percy so much. All I want, I said, choking back my tears, is to see my loving stepfather again. Every time I saw him on TV calling me a delinquent punk, I knew somehow it would be okay. And I know he'll want to reward each and every person in this beautiful city of Los Angeles with a free major appliance from his store. Here's the phone number. I love this kid so much. Okay, so I'm pretty sure it's confirmed that the guy at the front desk of the Empire State Building is reading Harry Potter. But, like, this book was published in 2005. It was meant to be set, I believe, around the same time. It was written before that, but I believe it was meant to be like early 2000s. Does Percy really not recognize the cover of Harry Potter? This is a weird obscure reference, but it's just said that Zeus wears a dark blue pinstripe suit. And for some reason, in my head, does anyone remember the suit that Barney bought in How I Met Your Mother that had like literal diamonds in it? Because for some reason that's always what I picture. That's not even what's described, but my brain is like, yes, this is what Zeus is wearing. Cause the sea doesn't like to be restrained. No one ever gonna once have it easy. I completely understand what Poseidon means when he says that he's sorry Percy's born, but like, that's rough. That's a rough thing to say to a 12-year-old kid. We do not talk about the fact that Sally is a victim of domestic abuse anywhere near as much as we should. I like that Percy doesn't even hesitate. He's like, Medusa's head, you want him gone? I'll do it. He has a little bit of an afterthought because he's been to the Underworld and he's like, do I have the power to send anyone there? We don't choose who lives or dies. Stop it. This is how my brain works. It's just anytime anything reminds me of like a Taylor Swift lyric or a musical quote, I will start singing it. It's very annoying. Ask my friend Georgia. He just immediately is like, he's been hitting you. You want him gone? Medusa's head. If my life is going to mean anything, I have to live it myself. What a beautiful fucking sentence. Can we just talk about how far Sally has come in the span of this series and in the Camp Half-Blood Chronicles? That's a conversation I would very much like to have. I won't exactly because spoilers, but I would like to have that conversation at some point, please. You know, I'm just really supportive of Sally's career in making sculptures. I think she's got a real gift, and yeah, I think that I just think it's great. I'm very supportive of that path for her. I think her piece, The Poker Player, was really groundbreaking, really revolutionary. Do you think when George Washington was like a young demigod, all the other demigods from other parents would like look at the Athena kids and be like, it must be nice to have Washington on your side? Look, not to be an Annabeth Kinney, the amount of times I've said that on this channel is getting a bit worried. I feel like we don't talk enough about the fact that Percy and Grover to Annabeth are two of the first real friends she's had in a long time, and immediately pretty much Grover leaves. Obviously he's on a quest to search for Pan, and that's wonderful, and Annabeth understands that, but to Annabeth's abandonment issues and her fear of everyone leaving her, he's leaving again. And this does, I'm going to talk a lot about this as I reread, but this does feed into her abandonment issues that then later are why in Battle of the Labyrinth and the Last Olympian, her relationship with Percy and her jealousy that she gets over Percy with like Rachel and Calypso, it stems out of this fear of everyone leaving her, and Grover is included in that. Everyone always kind of talks about Luke and her family and Talia, but Grover is included in that too. I mean, they may have been friends for longer because Grover did bring her back to camp, but it's almost implied that their friendship grew a lot on this quest as well, and then Grover, once again, is leaving, and she is trying to believe for herself and for her own sake and for Percy's sake that he'll return, but no satyr ever has before. And that does feed into her abandonment issues too. Percy being like, I don't know why I hesitated when Luke offered to like go down into the woods and like share a can of Coke or whatever. You hesitated because you just saw him using Backbiter, a blade that he proudly says is one of a kind that works on mortals and demigods both. That is why you hesitated, because you know that that's wrong. You know that that's off. That's why you hesitated, dude. Luke, what? And it hit me. You were betrayed by one who calls you a friend. You're the lightning thief. The oracle warned you, betrayed by a friend. I forgot how fucking brilliant the confrontation between Percy and Luke is. Like, Luke seems so unhinged, and he's so 100% convinced that what he's doing is the right thing and the better thing, and he has such intense resentment for the god. You see that start to trickle a little bit as the books go on, as he starts to have less and less trust in Kronos and more fear of Kronos, but like, here he's just so convinced that everything he's doing is justified and the right thing, and the gods are the main problem, and that Kronos can help him, and it's, oh my god, it's written so well. But also, fuck you to Luke for saying that Grover messes up everything he touches. Fuck you for that. You would never have gotten to camp without Grover. Percy is really lucky that he managed to make it to a place where all the camp is in the 60 seconds. He is very lucky. Could you imagine if he just died from the scorpion right then and there? So I do love how, obviously they can't have like the scorpion thing in the musical, but it makes me laugh every time in the musical when Luke just fucking stabs Percy. I didn't even realize Keep Your Eyes Open and Bring On the Monsters was a book quote. You keep hoping, you keep your eyes open. That's from Take Care, Seaweed Brain. Annabeth told me, keep your eyes open. You too, wise girl. I didn't even realize that. Also, unpopular opinion, I don't necessarily think that Annabeth's family deserved her making the decision to give them another try. Not me about to cry at him saying, I'll be back next summer, I'll survive until then. Okay, The Lightning Thief is done. That reread is over. That took me about 24 hours. I had fun with this. This will forever be one of my favorite books. Just the amount of comfort that this book brings me is like unparalleled. I think a lot of people do understand with the Philosopher's Stone. I think a lot of people have the experience with the Philosopher's Stone that I have with the Lightning Thief, but just Percy's narration in general, but especially this book just brings me so much comfort, and I needed that the past 24 hours that it took me to read it. I needed that. Anyway, thank you for watching. I'm going to keep rereading the series. I think I'll probably read them quicker than this, but I'll upload one reading vlog a week for the next 5 weeks, and then whenever I do the series after those. So if you want to like read along, if you want to read Sea of Monsters over the next week, and we can do a little like book club kind of thing, feel free to read, or you can just watch it whenever it's uploaded, or watch it whenever you finish rereading, if that's what you want to do. Thank you very, very much for watching. I love you very much, and I'll see you soon. Mwah.